Last year, I ran my personal best marathon, 3 hours, 6 minutes, and 1 second. 6 minutes. That's what separates me from a sub 3 hour marathon. And in 6 weeks, I'm gonna toe the start line at the Toronto Marathon to try to find those 6 minutes. But you're joining me pretty late in this journey, because my next marathon won't be my second marathon. It won't be my third. It won't even be my 10th. I want to share how I've gotten to this point, to set the table for what's to come, to show you the honest progression of an admittedly charming, but otherwise extremely average person. I'm gonna break it all down while I do my long run, which, through the magic of video editing, is already in progress. For context, this is an easy run because I've been overdoing it lately. Take it away, me. I've heard a big sign of overtraining is when you're not looking forward to your runs anymore. But today, I actually am looking forward to my run because I'm trying to run somewhere special. Actually, it's not anywhere special at all. It's a total nothing of a place, but it's special to me. I want to get on the vlog. I do feel like a bit of an idiot running around with this selfie stick, but I've said a few times before that one of the main drivers for me doing this vlog so that I have a record of my training, of this moment in my life. So if that means I have to be a bit embarrassed, well, so be it. I am a bit embarrassed. Okay, now I do have a bit of a ways before I get to this mysterious destination, which I should probably stop hyping up, because I do mean it is a nothing place, which has personal significance. But along the way, I want to talk about my running journey so far. Okay, super quick recap of running background because I waffled on for way too long. I didn't run in school. I played some sports, but only recreationally. In my 20s, I signed up for a 10K race, thought that the way you trained for a 10K was to run 10K every day, got injured, and then didn't run again until I was 34 years old. Now, back to me. So my current generation of running, this current journey I'm on, actually started before COVID. That's right, one of the cool kids who started running before the world got locked down. So in early summer of 2019, I had a business trip to Japan. It was a great time. Absolutely loved Japan. Had a ton of great food. Too much great food, actually. Came back from that trip and just felt a little out of shape. Like I had indulged too much. At the same time, I was feeling a real lack of control with my job. So I thought, why not sign up for a marathon? Now, the furthest I'd run at this point in my life was probably 12 or 13 kilometers. So I looked up a fall marathon, found the Toronto Waterfront Marathon, signed up for it, and I remember right after I signed up for the race, I Googled, how far is a marathon? I then set myself the goal of doing it in under 4 hours, because 4 is a round number. 5 sounded like too many. Absolutely, totally arbitrary. I had no idea what paces were like. Didn't even own a GPS watch at that point. Total seat of my pants decision. So I trained for about 16 or 20 weeks. Followed the free Hal Higdon Beginner 1 marathon plan I found online. And I ran my race. Clocked in at 4 hours and 55 minutes. So, not quite sub 4. But, crucially, although I was destroyed, I was hooked. And I immediately signed up for the Ottawa Marathon, which would take place in May. Let's have a little jailbreak. I stare pensively down the railroad tracks, which are only used once a week. Now, if you're keeping up with the timeline, May 2020, there would be no marathon. Of course, that is when COVID hit, and the race was converted to a virtual marathon. So I trained for this one. Pretty sure I used Hal Higdon's Beginner 2 or possibly Intermediate 1. So I was putting in more mileage. Training was going really well. And I was keen to get that sub 4. I wanted to cut 55 minutes off my marathon time. And I was going to run this one virtually. So no crowds, no support. But I'm no fool. I wasn't going to run were the marathon's worth of stuff on me. No. A virtual marathon meant I could pick the course. I could practice it. I could set up my house as an aid station, and I could go out and back and do loops, visiting my house whenever I needed an aid station. Genius, I thought, and I practiced it. What I would do is on like a 30K run, I would do those loops, but a little bit shorter. And then come race day, it was just a case of going 1 kilometer further on each of those loops. So one of them needed to be a bit longer to get up to 42. So I thought the first one should be 12K. You know, get it over and done with early. Certainly don't want the last one to be longer. Again, smart idea, I thought. However, when you are practicing and you're only going out 4K and back, and then you hit an aid station, you're hitting an aid station after 8K. If you then extend that to a 12K, so out 6 and back 6, you're not hitting your first aid station until 12 kilometers into the race. What the hell? Big mistake. The other really big mistake is I was dead set on doing this virtual marathon on the day that the real marathon was supposed to be. I did it at the end of May when it was like 25 degrees out. It was way too hot. I went way too long before getting my first water. And basically I found myself super behind on hydration. And I tried to catch up by drinking a lot. And your body just can't absorb that. So it's just sloshing around in your stomach. You're getting hotter, you're getting tired. At one point, a friend of mine who knew I was doing virtual marathon and he knew my route, he came and met up with me. And he may have actually saved my life because he gave me some of his water. I was walking at that point. My third critical mistake was insisting that I finish this. Because I think, especially early on in running, you really don't want to DNF. It's like a big point of pride. You will do stupid things to avoid DNFing. I threw up on my neighbor's lawn, walked the last 15K. It's absolutely miserable. But I finished my second marathon in 5 hours, 12 minutes. Don't do what I do, kids. Marathon number 3, also virtual, also Ottawa race weekend, the following year, 2021. Learned my lesson, got myself a hydration vest, carry stuff with me, trained more, was doing an intermediate training plan by this point, did my race on a day that seemed a bit more suitable, and clocked in a 4:07, which is pretty good, but definitely fell off at the end of it. Did not finish strong, had to walk quite a lot towards the end. Classic hitting the wall, and you know, from 34K on, it was just a bad day. And I didn't hit sub 4. So I did what any other reasonable person would do. A month later, I went out, said I was going for a run. Secretly, I was running another virtual marathon. Yeah, I just turned around and gave it another shot a month later. This time I ran 3:54. Super happy with that. Finally broke sub 4. Did what I felt I was actually capable of. Ran a much more even race. Yeah, I was happy with that one. All right, marathon number 4 of my career is again Ottawa Race Weekend Marathon. This time, back in person. COVID's over, baby. This is my 4th marathon, but only my 2nd one in person. So I got to run with crowds, there was support, there was a route planned out for me. Didn't have to carry anything. It's fantastic. Now my goal was overly ambitious. I think I was aiming for something like 3:20, but I ended up running a 3:26. So a huge improvement. That was almost a half-hour improvement from my last marathon. So now we're cooking. Things are going well. Fast forward to November of that year, the New York City Marathon. I applied for the lottery for New York City, got in first try. Turns out that's incredibly lucky, didn't know it at the time. And for this one, my training went so well, just so good. And I was so confident, way too confident. Went off too hot, and I paid the price. Ended up slogging around the rest of the course, honestly trying to stay out of the medical tent at the end. This was one of those very unseasonably warm years, and a lot of people dropped, especially towards the end. I finished just under 4 hours, so it was like 3:59. A couple of important lessons from that race. One is not to confuse how good you feel after a taper with actually being capable of far more than you were training for. You need that extra feeling of greatness from a taper to get you through the whole marathon at the paces you've been working at. It's not an excuse to just go out way faster. You'll never be able to hold on. And two, the thing I regret about that race is that I did keep trying for a long time. Even when the idea of a PB was like off the table, I kept trying. I wish I had just enjoyed it more. Like, that race is a party. It is super fun. But my memories of it are not a fun time because I just made myself miserable. Marathon number 6. Ottawa marathon again. This marathon's training block went well, but the sting of going backwards at New York City was definitely still very much in my head. Now, unfortunately, that just meant I wanted more out of my next race. And once again, bit off more than I could chew. And it was an extremely hot and humid day. It was quite the sufferfest for a lot of people at Ottawa that year. I ended up clocking a 3:46 at that marathon. Pretty forgettable. Just not good all around. Okay, marathons 7 and 8 in the fall of that year. Carrying on my amazing lottery luck, I managed to get in to Chicago and Berlin in the same year. So Berlin comes first. You might recognize the pattern here. My training went well, and I went for a very ambitious goal. And since a lot of my races I had blown up, I thought I would go out a bit slower and then pick it up when I could. So I actually went out at about 3:15 pace. Thought I would be good. And obviously this was a much better idea. I did find myself fighting to try to keep position with the big crowd, which is really frustrating. It was super difficult to try to run the line. I basically just gave up on that idea. But even just sticking with my pace group was really tough. And I felt like I spent a lot of my focus trying to keep track of them and catch up to them. Whereas a pace group, ideally, you can just lock in and stop thinking. Regardless, Berlin is a very flat course, very fast course. Berlin was a great race. Got a PB there by about 4 minutes, I think. So 3:22. So back on the right side of progression. Then after the race, I had to fly right back home because Chicago is 2 weeks after Berlin. Is this the ideal build for Chicago? Doing it 2 weeks after Berlin? No, definitely not. But am I mentally ready to give the marathon another chance? Just go out there, give it my all, and have fun? Also, no, I'm not ready. Oh man, send me your good luck. There was not a lot of time to do anything in between those two races. Really, I just got a chance to get my legs moving. That was about it. But perhaps the biggest upside was that you can't really have big expectations if you PB a marathon and then run another one 2 weeks later. So for once, I actually didn't get ahead of myself. I didn't get overly ambitious. I wasn't feeling great because of an excellent taper. I was not my own worst enemy. I actually took things conservatively. I found a pace group, the 3:20 pace group, and in Chicago, those streets are wide. No problem sticking with the pace group. I locked in for 37 kilometers, just running with the same group of eventually like 5 people. I believe the world record was set during that race. I recall being on the course and there were people yelling and shouting. They were hastily making signs letting us know about the new world record. Super exciting stuff. Pretty cool aspect of marathon racing is that you're racing on the same track as the world's best. And like, the grand scheme of things, not that far behind them. And at kilometer 37, I felt great. Thought, I can pick this up. I can go. So I did. And man, those last 5K, 5K, passing people, just feeling stronger and stronger. At the time, best marathon ever. Fantastic feeling. Ended up crossing the line, 3:18, another 4-minute PR. Just an excellent race. Love the Chicago Marathon. Instruction time. Let's navigate. Okay, marathon number, man, who knows, 9 maybe? Back to Ottawa race weekend. I'm feeling so good coming off those 2 PBs. Put in a monster training block, and the idea of Boston qualifying, 3:05 was my qualifying time. So that's 13 minutes. To me, that was within striking distance. So I trained like hell for this marathon. I'd learned my lesson about it being so freaking hot. So I was doing sauna training as well, 2 weeks out. Going to the sauna for 30, 40 minutes after my runs, just to try to get some heat acclimation. Try to increase my blood plasma volume. Pulling out all the stops for this one. My goal, 3:05. And I went out with the 3:05 pacer, and off the bat, didn't feel super comfortable, but I was set. I was gonna dig myself as deep a hole as I needed to make this happen. I made it to about 24K before the wheels really started to fall off. I took a gel, it went down and kind of came back up. And woo, my brain was looking for any excuse at that point. And that was a great excuse. So I slowed and walked. At this point in my running journey, I had learned to set some cascading goals. So my A goal, 3:05, it was running off, gone. My B goal, honestly didn't feel that much different. It's 3:10. That didn't seem too realistic. But my C goal, just a PB, 3:18, that could still be on the table. So I didn't give up. I was looking through my notes for this race. Turns out I had a secret 4th goal. I called it a performance goal, one that I had control of. Not like a results-based one, but on what I did, like the decisions I made. The performance goal was to not give up, not drop cadence, not decide that the race is gone and just jog it in. I would keep trying. For the next 10 kilometers, from kilometer 24 to 34, I wasn't really focused on the outcome goals. They didn't seem realistic. They were super far away. But the performance goal, that was something I could always stick to. Don't let your cadence drop. It's the only thing you have to do right now. Don't let your cadence drop. And suddenly, I found myself with about 7K to go, and my projected time was going to be just under my PB of 3:18:30. And so I kept going. My performance goal gave me a fighting chance, gave me something to focus on that wasn't doom and gloom about how my other goals, those outcome ones, were slipping away. It's just something I could focus on in the moment. So although that race fell apart, it gave me a chance in the last few kilometers to pick it up, and I ended up running a PB by about 30 seconds. And yeah, that's a ways off from what I was hoping for. But still, fastest marathon I'd ever run. You gotta celebrate that. And my next marathon would be in spring of last year. So late April was the St. Lawrence Marathon. Now for this one, I did something a little different in my training block. I did almost all of my long runs with a group of friends who were also going to be running the St. Lawrence Marathon. So we trained together, we got an Airbnb for the race, we drove down there together. The whole event was around this group. And let me tell you, that is the way to go. No matter what, after that race,
we were just gonna celebrate. It's gonna be great. As it turned out, we all had phenomenal races. St. Lawrence Marathon is a point-to-point course. It's at the end of April, so it was pretty chilly, little rainy, little windy. I wore some fancy Saucony Elite 2s, super squishy, and I had myself a race. I ran on my own pretty much the whole time because the field was not that big. Not a lot of people to chase, no one to work with. So I went inside my own head and I came up with this concept of the 4:28 train. So 4 minutes and 28 seconds per kilometer was the pace I wanted to run. So I said to myself, I'm gonna hop on the 4:28 train. The 4:28 train takes 4 minutes and 28 seconds to go 1 kilometer. That's it. The 4:28 train does not think about where it is in the race, doesn't think about how many kilometers it's done, doesn't think about when it's gonna take a gel, doesn't think about how much race is left, what the next part of the course is. It's never early, it's never late, it just is 4:28. And I would say this to myself for the majority of the race. I wouldn't even look at my watch. It would auto lap and beep. I looked down and I swear like a good dozen times it said 4:28. And each time it did, I was so excited. It prevented me from spending too much brain power thinking about what was coming next, anticipating, preparing, and honestly, probably stopped my brain from holding me back. Like if you know there's a lot of the course left or a particularly hard section coming, I think it's hard to stop your brain from keeping something in reserve. And by going a little bit crazy with something as simple as the 4:28 train, it really helped me. I was able to ride that 4:28 train till 32K, at which point I knew the rest of the course. I knew exactly what 10K felt like on that course, and I just went for it. Started catching people, turned on my music, felt amazing. My goal for that race, my A goal, was a slightly more conservative 3:08. I wanted to try to take 10 minutes off my PB. I ended up running my current personal best, 3:06:01. So happy about that race. Huge negative split, executed really well. Felt good afterwards, so probably left something on the table, but still, wonderful time. Don't get hit, don't get hit. And that finally brings us my most recent marathon. It was a month after St. Lawrence, so spring of last year. Say it with me now. Ottawa Race Weekend Marathon. I was not going to run this race. I had learned my lesson. Spent enough times getting cooked on those hills on the first hot, humid day of the summer. Didn't need that in my life. But a good friend of mine is coming to town to run the race. So there's no way I was gonna miss it. Now, thankfully, we both had the good sense not to go for it. And we decided, let's just do an easy 3:30 marathon. Not sure where the concept of an easy marathon came from, but it definitely was not true. We just barely squeaked in under 3:30. It was not an easy run. I mean, 3.5 hours on your feet, in the heat, on hills. It's never gonna be easy. But we did it, and it was a great experience running a whole marathon with a friend. I will cherish that one. I'm now back in my old stomping grounds. I used to live around here, close to the area of personal significance. Actually, just across the street. That is where I got bit by a dog while I was running. So that's an area of personal significance. I don't recommend that though. Oh, if you do ever get bitten by a dog when you're out running, like if the dog has an owner nearby, get the owner's contact information. At least here in Ottawa, the follow-up is to observe the dog for the next couple of weeks. And if the dog is fine, then you don't need rabies shots. That may vary based on your jurisdiction and the prevalence of rabies in your area. All right, here we are. The Capital Pathway runs along the Ottawa River here. Vous êtes ici? And this is the area of personal significance for me. What could this possibly mean? I mean, this is a nothing spot on a nothing pathway. Actually, that's not true. This is not a nothing pathway. This is part of the Trans-Canada Trail. You can take this all the way to Parliament. You can take it from one end of the country to the other. This is actually a pretty significant trail. This is where I would do my long runs when I first started running. So I was doing those Hal Higdon beginner plans. It'd start off, your long run would be 10K, then 12K, 14K, increasing every week. And I would always do an out and back from my house, which was back there. Go out this way, go out 5K, turn around, come back. And each week, I would go out a little bit further. And I would see a little bit more of this path. And that was exciting. You get to see something new. Get this feeling that, you're exploring a bit more of your city. Because I would go out a little bit further each time, I would get back to about this spot and still have another about 2K to go home. But the distances would be increasing each week. So every time I got back to this spot, it would be the farthest I had ever run. And I'm getting chills just thinking about it. I would get back to this spot and I would be at 11K. And every step from then forward was uncharted territory for me. Then the next weekend, 13K. Every step forward, I had never run that far in my life. And I would get that feeling every single week. It was so addictive. That I think is the runner's high. So I still think about this spot. A nothing spot on a nothing path. Oh, okay. Trans-Canada Trail. Probably doesn't mean anything to anybody else, but still, I picture this place in my head quite often. It's a nice place too. Looking out over the Ottawa River, through the trees there. Anyway, this is where I wanted to come to today. I think I'll run a little bit further, then turn around, head home, just like old times. Whew. All right, 30K in. I think I'm finally done with all the slushy part. It's been about 7K of just running through slush. I am totally soaked through. Ready to get this one done. Got about 4K to go. I'll call it a day. But it's been a nice run. Been taking it pretty easy. And it's been fun revisiting some old stomping grounds.
And that brings us all the way back to today. I feel like I've come a long way so far. 6 more minutes to go. 6 more weeks.
That's going to do it for this week. Thank you so much for watching. I'll be back next week. Another training video. Sub 3. Let's do it.